There are ways you can stress test your nation. Did you know that as a citizen? When you're trying to figure out how you're doing as a country. How are we doing as a country? I'll tell you, there are some recent stress tests that I find to be extremely alarming. I find the COVID response alarming, to put it mildly, both from the government and the people. Are we still the land of the free? I find the lack of accountability for Afghanistan to be extremely alarming. Everyone's talking about the Pentagon leak, and they're digging in to find who leaked the Pentagon and embarrass this regime. Remember, we murdered 10 innocent Afghanis, and they called it a process failure. No one got fired. No one even got reprimanded. That's an alarming stress test for where you are as a nation. But honestly, maybe the biggest one is George Soros himself. You've heard me talk about this before if you've been watching a while, but I can't get over this. We look around right now at so much horror that's going on in this nation, especially horror that's taking place within our cities. And maybe you're not a city person. If you're not, that's fine. I love them both. I love the city. I love the country. But cities are an important part of a nation. They're what goes on the billboard of your nation. Maybe you don't love New York City. I do. Maybe you don't. But New York City is really important. LA is important. Austin, Texas is important. Chicago, important. Cities are important for a country. And we're looking at our cities turn into third world, murder-ridden hellholes. And our cities, they're attacking the right and running protection rackets for the left. That's why you're seeing Donald Trump indicted in New York. That's why you saw Daniel Perry arrested, tried, and convicted of murder in Austin. And we're looking around in horror at all this. And very rarely can you point to a single boogeyman as the reason behind it. Only in this case, we really can. George Soros, or I guess two of them because his son's involved now too, George Soros and his son, they are the reason America's cities are in this current state. And maybe you're sitting there saying, Jesse, that's crazy. Jesse, that's not true. George Soros brags about it. He publicly brags that he is the reason these soft on crime prosecutors get elected. And he brags that he has no intention of stopping, that he intends to ramp it up. So when you look around at the horror of America's cities, all those murders, all those rapes, assaults, arson, the horrible state of it. Think about all the misery, all the heartbreak, all the parents who don't have a child anymore, husbands without wives, wives without husbands, children who are going to grow up now without dad. There is an author of all that pain. You know that? His name is George Soros. And more than anything else, when I think about George Soros, you know what I think about? I think we are failing a stress test. Please tell me the nation in the history of the world that would allow a foreign-born rich guy to not only cause murder and mayhem and civil unrest within its borders, but would allow him to brag about it and publicly declare that he intends to do it again and again and again. When Britain was at the height of its power, shoot, Britain now, but Britain at the height of its power, do you think Britain would have allowed some French billionaire to do such a thing? When the Mongols were ruling all of Asia, I think they would have allowed somebody in Africa somewhere to just spend a bunch of money and cause a bunch of civil unrest in a Mongolian city or several Mongolian cities. Persia, pick your empire. No serious nation, no nation that takes its existence seriously would allow such a thing. All of them would have handled the problem. Call it arrested, purged from the borders, threatened with severe imprisonment, worse. I mean, who knows what nations throughout history would have done. But no nation would allow such a thing, at least no nation that's interested in its own survival. But the United States of America does. In fact, some of our most powerful politicians will pose for pictures with this human being. And this goes on and on and on and on here. It is a frightening stress test. And maybe you look at that old bag and you say to yourself, well, at least he's not going to be around too much longer. But that's where you're wrong, you see, because his 37-year-old son is just as bad, if not worse than he is, and he's visited the White House 14 times while Joe Biden has been president. This evil family of communists runs the United States of America. And we sit here and do nothing about it. Nothing. It really is amazing to watch a nation that I love, a nation you love, fall so far. But that's where we are. Maybe one day we will rekindle what we're really lacking in this country. Let's be honest. We have a patriotism problem. There was a time in this nation, for most of our history, Republican, Democrat didn't matter. Deep down, you had a genuine love of country. When you allow someone to do this to your nation, within your nation, and brag about it, what we have is a severe lack of patriotism, and that is friggin' sad.